Okay. So, hi everyone again. Thank you so much for coming to the DSAI Postgraduate Forum Zoom meeting today. So my name is Ami, a new convener of DSAI Postgrad Network. So nice to see you all. So I just want to, introduce myself very briefly. I'm from Japan, and 2.5 years ago, I came to Ireland, studying English first, and worked at like a sales and custom operator at American company in Dundalk for like half a year. And then I finally became the master student of peace and conflict at UCD now. And this is the final trimester. And now I'm, and now I'm working on for the thesis, and I will talk about that later more on my presentation. So firstly, I would like to inform you again what the DSAI Postgrad Network is doing, since there are many new members who don't know what it is, maybe. So DSAI is Ireland's only association for researchers and practitioners working in the field of international development, and it runs a number of study groups such as civil society, as Nita belongs, or child health, education, gender, and our postgrad study network, and more. And this postgrad network is made up of students from across different institutions, like, some people are from Dublin and some people from Cork or Galway. So from a range of academic backgrounds. And DSAI membership is free of charge and allows postgrad students to network with like-minded people and well-established actors across the international development sector. And another key benefit of DSAI membership is...
Hear me?
Oh, okay.
You're back.
Sorry.
You're back.
No, I was disappeared, sorry.
That's okay, that's okay.
Okay, maybe my network, I'm sorry, I will change that later, I'm very sorry. Okay, so so I will restart again. So
No, I think everybody heard the first bit, Amy, so I think you're okay. We heard about you and the DSAI.
Okay, yeah, great.
Yeah,
thank you.
Did you want to say something more about the specifics of the postgraduate network?
Yes, a little bit more. Is it okay for you? Yeah, and also, like, I wanted to tell you that another key benefit of DSAI membership is the working paper series, which allows early stage researchers to have their research critically reviewed by professional researchers in the first of development studies. And this is an especially useful resource for postgraduate students, since it offers budding researchers the opportunity to receive constructive feedback on their work from knowledgeable peers. Moreover, if the authors of working papers accepted for publication may be awarded €150 towards supporting their continued research. So I will send this information to all of you maybe later, okay? And yeah, so that is all what I wanted to explain about the DSAI Postgrad Network. So I hope you understand more about this. So now, I would like to pass the baton to Nita, today's chair, and for the introduction words. Yeah, thank you so much, Nita.
Nita, I don't think can chair, so I'll chair in her stead if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
So you're all very welcome, as Amy was saying. It's great to see you all here, and this is the first of what we hope will be several events during the course of the year. Obviously, a lot of them are virtual. Just to add that if you are organizing events, or if you know of events that are happening that are of interest to the membership, we do have a DSAI coordinator and also communications officer. And so there's a great, is that working,
yes,
Anita?
Thanks.
You can hear us. Okay. I'll let you take over then. So, but if there are events that you think would be of interest to the association, please send those on to us, and we'll publicize those for you. So with that.
I'm so sorry about this. This has never happened before, but I'm glad to be back. Welcome, everyone. Thanks, Porrick. Gertrude, yes, you are welcome. Please join in. We want more students. And Mike, hi, Nguyen, hi, Amy. So sorry about this. So I said I'll share, but I wanted to introduce everybody to everyone before I also, maybe we could start with Sophie's little presentation and go to Amy after that. You both can introduce yourselves. And towards the end, and then Nguyen said he wants 5 minutes. Nguyen was the co-convener before this with Philomena. I was the convener in 2012, 2014 for 2 years, and we had a great time. So I'm hoping all of you can bring in more people, maybe in a couple of other events you will be able to. In my own, towards afternoon, I will just tell you what we did in 2012, 2014, and that may probably help you figure out what you can do. And Hannah, you're very welcome. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thanks,
So Sophie,
Nita.
on to you.
Yeah, okay, so I will share the screen now. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you can see the slides.
Great, thank you so much, Ami and Nita, and it's lovely to meet everybody else. My name is Sophie Healy-Thow. I'm based in UCC, studying International Development and Food Policy. I've just finished my 3rd year, so going into 4th year, touch wood, all going well. And I have been very lucky to work in the space of food, agriculture and nutrition for quite a while now. So I think I'm just going to talk a little bit about my experience in the area. So yeah, great, thank you. So last October, I was appointed by the UN Secretary General to be on the Scaling Up Nutrition Movement's lead group. It's the first time they have added young people onto their policy making and decision making groups. So I'm very happy to be part of that. We work in nutrition, in the nutrition field, working with government and policymakers to make a country strategy towards ending malnutrition and obesity, specifically in the global south, but working more and more in the global north and bridging the gap between the private and public sectors. I am currently doing my 3rd year placement with Concern Worldwide. Due to COVID, I am doing this placement from home, but I was supposed to be in Malawi. I also work as a trustee on the board of ActionAid UK, and I've been on the board of ActionAid UK since I was about 17. I've also been very lucky to attend conferences and youth events all across the globe, ranging from Unleash, the Youth Ag Summit, the London International Youth Science Forum, and I've been very lucky to be invited to speak at such events. For example, I was in Hong Kong speaking with the Hong Kong Jockey Club on what philanthropy means in a business sense. But previously, in how I got into this area that I didn't expect myself to be in was through science. I won the Ireland's National Science Competition, the BT Young Scientist. Then I won the EU contest for young scientists, and a little bit later I won the Google Science Fair in Silicon Valley with 2 other teammates. It was here where I found out that science is all around us, research is all around us, and that the only way to bring research forward and make it actionable is to have young people in the room. So next slide, please, Ami. Thank you so much. So right now, I am working to create a space in which young people and professionals in the field can speak together at a table in which egos aren't really there. I've been in a lot of rooms where young people are the token box ticked, or we're seen as just students. So I'm creating a podcast with Concern right now, where I'm just gathering a lot of people that I've met throughout my years attending conferences. In my very first episode, it's going to be called A Race Against Time. We are in a decade of action. The SDGs are up in 2030. So we're really rushing to get some of these actionable SDGs completed. And it's a debate on whether or not we will get that done. My first two guests are Dr. Lawrence Haddad, the Executive Director of GAIN, one of the people I really look up to in the field, and he's also an advocate for the youth voice. And also Valerie Millay, Ireland's UN Youth Delegate. And I think it'll be a really important discussion to have. So watch out for that. I'll be tweeting about it, and I hope you can all listen in the next few weeks when that gets posted. And the next slide, please. And I just wanted to talk about why I believe this space is needed. I mentioned it, but I'm very lucky to work with a lot of youth activists, and anytime we're in the room, the most common two things we get told are, you don't work in the space, what do you know? And two, you don't even have a degree yet. So those are the two biggest things we get spoken about, or we get tapped on the head and told, well done, thanks for coming. But we don't get the engagement that we deserve and that we need. So go on to the next slide, thank you. So I call these spaces the ivory towers because from the outset, the UN, the FAO, even the DSAI look like places that you can't touch. They're quite up there. How could you ever engage? When really, when you get into it, they're much more open than you would expect. But I want to talk a little bit about my experiences of being in the room. At my very first bilateral meeting at the FAO, I have a notebook that I've used for some years now. And while I was taking notes, I took a look at the room around me. And I made this little note in my notebook that said, there's no women in the room. And there's only one young person, including myself, and she's a translator. And this was only last year. And that's so disheartening as a young person to come into a space that you look up to and to see that you're not represented in the room at all. There's also very little framework for youth participation. I'm very lucky because my voice got heard, but there are so many young people working at the grassroots level who are never in the room, and they're the people who need to be in the room and whose stories need to be told, but also engaged with. But this can be a really disempowering place, especially as a young person. I've been, as I've said, many conferences, but at every single conference, I've had to go out of the room and have a little cry because it's the same people talking about the same issues again and again and again. And it's so hard to see what action has taken place. You know, we've been talking about women's issues for hundreds of years now, and they still exist. We've been talking about hunger for hundreds of years now, and there's a rise of 841 million people that will be hungry by the end of 2030, I think it was. We have a 300% increase in food production, but people are still going hungry. We have an increase of nutrition-based policies, but obesity is still on the rise. So what is being done? And it's so disempowering when the same conversations move in circles. But in saying that, when youth participation is done right, you can do anything. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about what needs to be done. Next slide, please. So how can we improve? It's not really a one size fits all, but I think where to start is having young people as trustees on boards in every space, whether it be the private sector or the public sector. Having a young person on your board can make a significantly huge difference, because one, these boards, this is where the governance takes place. These are where the decisions are made, and this is where the company or the organization is held accountable. So if you don't have a decision maker of the now and of the future on your board, how do you know you're making the right decisions for the future? How are you properly representative of your consumers or the people you're trying to help for the future? And also, next slide, please. Thank you. I just wanted to remind everybody that over 20% of the world's population are young people. We always get told that we're the voters of the future, but really we're the voters of the now. You see thousands upon thousands of climate activists take to the street. You see thousands upon thousands of activists take to the street for the Black Lives Matter march. You see young people lying across Indigenous land to ensure that pipelines aren't being built. And there have been actionable causations of these acts that they have taken. But what I've noticed very much recently, specifically in the research sector, is that the research isn't accessible to young people. Your papers can be free and they can be in libraries where young people are sitting, but they're not readable. I mean, I think the most interesting example that I've found is the Eat Lancet report. It was a really incredible report detailing what the diets of the now and of the future need to look like, but nobody really knew what was in the report if the media hadn't showcased it. And what the media did was they took a little piece in the middle of the report that said we need to cut red meat consumption down to 0. And they didn't take the full report as it was. But if that report was readable and understandable to a younger audience, people would have read it. But I've read that report and it's full of jargon, and it's very, very long. It is difficult to read and it is difficult to understand. So if it isn't readable and easy to understand, people are going to understand it from the perception of whoever is taking the juiciest bits out of it. And that's not the way I think research needs to be. And I think more organizations need to take on young people who are in different areas. It's very trendy now to have climate activists heard about, but there are also young people working on a little less media-friendly issues like agriculture, like nutrition, the more science-based. I'm not saying climate action isn't science, because it absolutely is, but when you look at algae, or I know a girl working on paint that's biodegradable. And there are some incredible activists working in different areas who aren't getting the recognition that they deserve for their work. You also need to be flexible and engaging. Flexible because I know a lot of young activists, specifically in the countries like Zimbabwe and Tanzania, who don't have a mobile phone. They don't have access to Zoom like we do. They don't have Wi-Fi on a lot of occasions. So to engage with them, you really need to think carefully about how you go about it. I know one boy called Maxwell who uses his friends' phones whenever he can to send out tweets about what he finds most interesting, about what he's read on newspapers or what he's seen on TV. And he has gained traction by doing this because people are listening. But when you think about how to engage with him, you need to think about what's easiest for him to do, not what's easiest for you. So I feel like I've rambled a little bit, but thank you for listening. I think just a takeaway is to please try and be engaged and engage the people who need to be in your conversations for the future. And thank you so much for giving me this space to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you so much for that. That's a lot of food for thought, for thinking. Hi, Mike. Great to see you. Looks like you did go to the barber. And so,
All for swimming, Nita.
Mike, you know everybody. Does you know Nguyen, you know Porig, you know Hannah?
I do. I don't know Hannah, I think.
Okay, Hannah is in, she's a primary school teacher. Maybe she can we'll introduce each other a little later. And Amy is the convener. Amy, do you want to go and, you want to present yours now?
Yes, thank
Thanks.
you very much, Nita. So I will share the screen again. Okay, so now you can see the screen. Okay, thank you. So thank you very much. So now I would like to talk about my research, what I'm working on now. And I said my major is peace and conflict. And particularly, I'm interested in gender equality issues. And if there was no COVID-19 pandemic spread all over the world, like Sophie said, I also supposed to be in Livingstone in Zambia now in this here. This is a beautiful waterfall there. As the second month, unfortunately. So what I'm planning to do was to go there and doing an internship for 3 months through the NGO called African Impact, and working for gender equality and girl empowerment. So concretely, the task what I would do was to that this NGO, firstly I have to tell you that this NGO found that it is crucially important for children to have an education of gender equality from their early stage, that girls are equal to boys and they can be kind, courageous, strong, and resilient. And they have 6 pillars, namely education, health, early pregnancy, safety, making a living, and confident. And they have made lessons from these pillars into 2 main curriculums that we used to teach the girls and boys. And they are the AGEP, it's Adolescent Girls Empowerment Program curriculum, and the Leadership curriculum. So the first AGEP curriculum is the foundation of girl impact, and they teach the lessons to the 5th grade, and the grade 6 being the highest grade, and it covers the leadership program throughout the year. And there are enough lessons in each curriculum to cover a year of classes. And each lesson, they have many activities to make sure the girls and boys understand the topic, and also shows them how exactly they can apply what is being taught to them. So the first one, the make a positive impact in making the lives of adolescent girls, giving them skills, support, and inspiration. So that is, the basic things, what they're doing. And the second one is support open discussion and help change attitudes surrounding the controversial role of men and women. So we have to get rid of the expectation for women, which is that women should be a housewife who do all cleaning, cooking, taking care of children, because and the other hand, men can do whatever they want, but are also expected to get an income and support the family with the very basics. And the rest of the money goes a lot of time to alcohol and the other girlfriends. So we should definitely change the situation. And the third one is work with the local boys as we introduce, educate, and raise awareness for gender equality. So gender equality is not only for girls, but also, boys should understand. And if boys also learn the gender equality from their early stage, the situation can be changed much faster and better. So that's we do mainly in the morning, and in the afternoon, we're supposed to work for women's group who were married fast or single mother or something like that. And for the women's group, their goal is to empower them with skills and knowledge in business and health so that they become financially independent and be example in the community for the other women. So yeah, so, and also we teach them, yeah, this is very small, but we teach them the HIV or other like sexual diseases or protection of sex or hygiene as well. So next, I would like to talk about the impact of COVID-19 in Zambia. So that African Impact, the NGO, decided to suspend their any kind of program until 31st of December in 2020. And firstly, this is the number of cases in Zambia, the total one, from the website called Worldometer. As you can see, both the cases and number are much less than the other countries like USA or South America, Europe, and Asian countries. But there are many theories as to why this is the case. That being said, several African countries are expecting the peak of infections and death later in this year. And we must remember that Africa is a continent made up of developing nations where there are high unemployment and poverty levels and insufficient resources for education, transportation, communication, and healthcare on a daily basis. And many of the communities are in lack basic sanitation and health resources, which makes them extremely vulnerable to the COVID-19 pandemic. So yeah, this, I think, yeah, this is very crucial and we need to think more about this. And instead of doing internship, I changed my shift to writing the thesis now. And I decided to work on what I'm supposed to do in Zambia, which is to focus on education of gender equality for both girls, boys, and women. Because I feel education is such a powerful thing which affect us a lot. So I really agree with the activities which African Impact, the NGO, do to teach girls, boys, and women about gender equality. And I am researching several organizations like which are working for achieving gender equality in Zambia. And each organizations have their different methods. So I will compare and see what they have achieved so far and see what the best solution in teaching gender equality. Yeah, that is all what I wanted to talk. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Amy. Nguyen, you want to say your 5 minutes, speak something about your role with DSAI and your work?
Yes, thanks, Nita. But yeah, that was a great presentation. Thanks, Sophie and Amy. I would like to also thanks Nita and Amy for involving me in this meeting today. Yeah, I think most of you are aware that I was the former DSAI Postgrad study group convener together with Philomena, but unfortunately we had to step down a few months ago, and personally for me that was a busy time, and I was almost close to my PhD transfer at DCU, so lots and lots of time for the writing and meeting deadlines. And I think it was for Philomena, it was in the transitional stage of being a student and working full-time. So unfortunately we had to step down, but it's great to have Amy as the new to take over the role. And to be honest, we never had anything like this, such a good meeting with everyone sharing the research and you know, perspectives and expanding the membership. In our term, I guess it was almost at a planning stage for us, Philomena and myself, and we were also trying to expand the membership, but yeah, so basically we were more or less at a planning stage. So it's great to finally have this sorts of meeting like this today, and I hope well, not officially DSAI Postgrad convener anymore, but I can stay in the background to assist Amy and the study group. Yeah, and about what I'm doing, about some postgrad research activities. I also want to briefly give an overview of my research today. So if you could share, if you could allow me to share the screen, Amy. Yeah, because I didn't have a chance to send the PowerPoint.
Yeah, I already did it.
You
So
did it?
you can do that. Yes, now.
Yeah, let me try and share the screen. All right. Can you see my screen now? Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Everybody?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, great. Yep, so just a quick overview about my research on development and translation. So first of all, a bit more about myself. In Vietnam, I worked for nearly 15 years as a translator and development worker, and also consultant, cross-cutting issues consultant, monitoring and evaluation officer for several development programs. And I worked for quite a long time with especially NZ8. And from my work experience and previous research, I have become aware of the different understandings and also different translation equivalents in Vietnamese language for the very key terms such as resilience, civil society, well-being, participation, and so on. And we all know that these terms and concepts are quite dominant and used in almost every development program. But in Vietnam, the communication of these terms and concepts between different groups of development stakeholders, donors at many levels, so the communication is not always easy because of the different understandings and translation. And this challenge has brought about very divergent practice and approaches in policy making in Vietnam, especially at local and community levels. So to address this situation, I'm conducting my PhD research with the full funding from the School of Applied Language and Intercultural Studies at DCU, with the implication to make terms and concepts more consistent and understandable to all partners and stakeholders by addressing the role of translation and terminology. So over the last 2 years, I tried to systematically problematize the interrelation between translation and development by scoping key literatures in both translation studies and development studies. And the main outcome is what you're seeing on the screen, which is then the identification of the research problem space of terminology, practice, policy, and knowledge. So I suggest to explore translation as as a socially regulated activity and a complexity within the NEXUS module. This module is to show how the elements of development instigate changes in translation when translation takes place in the complex and dynamic context of development encounters. And I'm talking about the Vietnam context in particular. And these are my research questions, with the principal question, as you can see, regarding the role of translation and terminology and development practice in Vietnam. And then 3 guiding questions. And at the moment, I've done some primary research to particularly address the first guiding question, which is the research question number 2 of the cases of translation equivalents, different translation equivalents of terminology in Vietnam. So yeah, so this is the research design of a multiple methods approach, which combines empirical text analysis, which I'm doing at the moment, and then ethnography in the field. So interviews, participant observation, and video recording to address the other guiding question. And then to fit the answering of the research questions in the NEXUS module. So the answering of the guiding question will then address the overarching question about the role of translation. So at the moment, I have completed a preliminary study on textual analysis and term retrieval using some salient examples from the literature and from the reality of challenges in translation of terms in Vietnam. And I'll give an example later, but this is basically what I'm doing now. So I built a parallel bilingual corpus from English and Vietnamese texts in development. So at the moment, I chose 10 pairs of texts and the subdomains of rural development, climate change, poverty reduction, sustainable livelihoods. Yeah, and I used Sketch Engine, which is a corpus manager and text analysis software to operate corpus queries on the terms. And here I'm presenting one example from the study when I searched for different translation equivalents in Vietnamese for the term resilience in English. So here we can see one equivalent of resilience in Vietnamese, which is literally the ability to recover, khả năng phục hồi. And then another equivalent as adaptability. And then another equivalence, which is khả năng ứng phó or endurance. So the number is interesting in a number of ways. For example, we can see from the results that khả năng thích ứng or adaptability is the most common translation of resilience from the text. And this emphasizes the prominence of the concept of adaptability in the text and in the corpus that I built. And it also supports the claim that the equivalence of resilience most frequently lines up to the specific domain of climate change adaptation. So this can provide a good entrance into maybe further research of the use of this translation by those who engage with the term on a daily basis, in the broader context of development. And this is from, this is another example around the term resilience. So a poster that I designed about a contest organized by the French Development Agency and the youth and the Vietnam Youth Union in 2018 to ask the youth in Vietnam to translate resilience in different ways. So it's gaining a lot of attention at the moment now. So in terms of methodology, as I mentioned, I have completed empirical text analysis, and now I'm at the stage of moving into ethnographic fieldwork in Vietnam. Yeah.
May I please give you one more minute?
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah,
we won't
yeah,
have a chance to discuss. Yeah, thanks.
Yes. I'm coming to the last slide now, Nita. But thanks for reminding. So yeah, so the priority now is to prepare for field work, but then it depends so much on COVID-19. Yeah. So that's basically what I'm doing with my research. So thanks for listening, and if anybody comes across any issues with translation and development and want to discuss, I would really like to welcome. Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you, Nguyen. That is fascinating. In fact, on the civil society one, maybe I'll invite you as a speaker. So you are caught now.
Yeah, okay, no problem.
I would love to know what's happening.
Okay.
So I was thinking of presenting slides, but I won't do that now. I just want everybody, do you have questions for Sophie, Amy, and Nguyen? And then we can discuss how you think we can take DSAI Postgraduate Forum forward. We have Mike Fitzgibbon also here from UCC, and I'm hoping he'll get more students like Sophie into it. And so I just open, does anybody have any questions for the three presenters and any ideas to take it forward? And please introduce yourself. Yeah. Nobody? Sophie, you want to ask Nguyen anything? Amy?
I can ask a question, Lita.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for your presentations. I'm Pori Carmody. I'm currently the chair of the DSAI. So Sophie, I was wondering if you would say something about, you said, you know, to be flexible and to be open to young people's perspectives, but concretely for the DSAI, what do you think that would look like? I mean, I have thought about it in the past, that there's a huge constituency of primary and secondary school students, for example, potentially. So I'm wondering if you have any suggestions. Now, we do also kind of try and promote research being done in Ireland, and obviously there isn't necessarily that much research being done below kind of postgraduate level in Ireland. So I'd just be interested to hear your thoughts if you have any kind of specific ideas or suggestions of things that we could do.
Just for clarification, thank you. It was lovely to meet you. But do you mean getting primary school and secondary school students involved, or more research applicable to them?
So I was thinking about, I mean, not necessarily getting them involved. I mean, there are all sorts of issues with safeguarding and child protection and all the, you know, all of that kind of stuff. But I do feel that we are kind of missing a trick in the sense that the voters of the future are in school now, and we don't really engage with them at all. And so it is something, I mean, I did moot at one point kind of maybe having a schools outreach program where we would try and kind of source lecturers or guest lecturers maybe to go and talk to students. That might be one kind of potential idea. But even undergraduate students, you know, getting them. So I think that's the kind of thing, maybe the outreach would be how we would engage with primary and secondary school students. But if you have ideas about how to engage maybe undergraduate students, you know, I'd be interested in those.
Yeah, definitely, because there are so many youth branches and youth organisations that already exist. You can definitely tap into them. The National Youth Council of Ireland are absolutely fantastic at engaging primary and secondary school students in a very safe and safeguarded way, and translating their opinions for them, not necessarily so they can speak themselves, but they do have conferences and events specifically for their youth members, but also they have lots of different papers that showcase what young people are thinking. There are also a lot of youth debating teams that are fantastic to hear from. Again, that would be through civil society mechanisms like Concern have an incredible youth debating team. But then also, if you're looking from a science perspective in terms of research, the BT Young Scientist exhibition have a competition in, I think it's in Tanzania and also in Dublin. And they showcase students' DIY science projects extremely well. And they have speakers who are absolutely incredible, but they also bridge that gap that exists between Ireland and students in Tanzania very, very well. I think they would be definitely worth getting in touch with. And in terms of undergraduate, it could be as simple as engaging with the societies that already exist in universities. Every single university I know has a feminist society. A lot of them have climate action societies. They work very heavily on direct provision, and you'll hear from a lot of young people in direct provision through those. And I think Mike works really hard on those issues, and he'd be much better to talk to on that than me. But there's like science societies there. It's really just on your doorstep.
Sure,
and
sure.
it can be so easy to get in contact with them. And I'd be so happy to make the linkages if needs be, for sure.
Great. Okay, those are great ideas. Thank you.
I'd like to say to Ami about her presentation, and both of them, Sophie and Ami, I was just blown away. I learned so much from both of you and from Nguyen as well. So thank you guys. When you were talking about your NGO, the work you were going to do with African Impact, which sounds like a fantastic organization, I really agree with what you said when you discussed how boys and girls need to be educated on gender equality issues, as something that my favourite writer, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, is very, very passionate about. She'd be a real cornerstone feminist. And in 2018, I worked with an NGO in Calcutta in India, Development Action Society, and they are huge in the area of kind of like gender equality community programs, both for males and females. So I just was really taken by what you said about opening discussions and changing attitudes towards the conventional role of men and women. And Development Action Society also had community projects to get more women financially independent as well, and it was really, really good to see that. But lovely to hear it in your presentation, and I really enjoyed all the presentations. So well done to all of you.
Thanks, Hannah. I just want to also say Hannah is a primary school teacher, and with DCU, she works with DCU also.
Right.
Mike, you want to say something, Gertrude?
I'd like to ask about your advice terms of teaching, you were talking there a while ago about teaching. Was it Amy, is it, or Annie? Teaching gender equality, and you were talking about other countries, but in Ireland, I suppose we just have to look at the recent elections, and I suppose, you know, I've seen, you know, many years of teaching about gender and so on and so forth, and I find it outrageous, actually, that we're still in a situation where we're being represented by so few women. And I'm just wondering where we go from here in Ireland in terms of teaching younger people or older people, or teaching anywhere, or all the different levels of intervention, or, you know, I think it's for everybody, whatever their age group. And, you know, where would you start again, sort of thing? Because I just found it extraordinary that this is where we're still there.
So yeah, thank you so much for asking me the question. So my name is Ami. Firstly, so what you want to ask is like how to improve the Irish like society to improve the gender equality. Like actually, like I'm impressed that, you know, when we see the global gender equality ranking by World what is that, the organization, Ireland is ranked in number 6 or 7 this year, so it's really high. Yes, it is. It is consistent.
Well, that doesn't say anything about the rest of the world.
Yeah, but it is really, you know, it's like it's judged by the political issue, like economic issue, the education, and one more thing I forgot, sorry. And it is really, so like I even, you know, think that Ireland should be, you know, one of the model case to compare with Africa. No, okay, everybody say no. Yeah, so maybe that's gonna be but I have to research more. Sorry. Yes, so thank you for giving me the opportunity. Sorry. Yeah, maybe if we see only the number, maybe it doesn't say the real thing. Maybe Rwanda is, you know, number 1, but I don't know, you know, reality. So yeah. Thank you so much. I really,
it's always good to get perspectives of people who are, you know, anyway, thinking about these things further. Okay. I just find it amazing that we're still, not just in politics, but in other areas as well. You know, and if we're the 6th in the world, then that's very, very great concern. It's even worse here.
Oh, I just had, Mike, please. You are muted, Mike.
I know.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Just a few things about that. Just to refer directly to Ami, what you said, and that one of the things that tends to skew indexes of that are things like the presence of female presidents for a substantial period of our history, as if our presidents had the same kind of powerful roles that, say, US presidents have. And that has skewed the current index over a significant period. I don't believe we should be number 6 or anything like it. Okay, that's just a by the way. These indexes are have you know, they're nuanced would be a nice way of putting it. Just if I could just go back to a couple of things, Sophie. Thanks for all 3 of you. I mean, it's fascinating stuff, and there's lovely overlap actually across the 3 of your works. Even if you didn't spot it, you can see it from down here in Dingle. But I would find that what you said in terms of the way that academia and others present their information and their knowledge is problematic. We design almost for inaccessibility and exclusion. And I know that this has been a problem with you in the past as well, Sophie, with other organizations, but I mean, we need to start coming to terms with this. And if we're creating knowledge, it has to be a public good, and that means anyone should be able to pick it up and understand what we're saying. And if we're not doing that, we're failing in our work. That'd be my take on that. I do think as well, Amrita, your focus on males and Sophie, this is a bugbear of mine, you know, that at the core of our issues are masculinities, and addressing issues around masculinity, that's where, you know, our core of our problems are, and engaging boys and men in these areas is so important, and it's really good to see that that's an integral part of the work that's being done over there. And I think as well, Nguyen, when you were speaking about the couple of words that you picked up, you know, we use these words as people as if everyone understood what they mean in English before we ever move into translation. And they mean different things to all of us. You know, we tend to hang off these jargons. Yes. And I know we do it as well and I mean, Patrick, I'm sure would agree, as would Nita, that and I hope Jackie and as well, that, you know, we create our own jargons. Yes. The other thing I remember, by the way, Nita, was that we were at the Gender-Based Violence Consortium annual meeting, where you made the point at that meeting about the levels of, or the way that you know, sexual assault in Ireland was effectively being, you know, how can we talk about you know, addressing GBV in Zambia or in wherever, and you know, we don't deal with it. Yeah. You know, and you were basically, you know, whitewashed at that that particular meeting.
This was the national meeting at the National Gallery when Savita Halappanavar died.
Yeah.
Just a day after that, and nobody was talking about that. They were talking about female genital mutilation instead in African countries. And that was a pity. Nobody took me seriously then, and nobody still takes seriously.
No, you're talking about the Irish Academy. A couple of years before that, because I know it wasn't when Savita Halappanavar died, because we were in Lesotho then, but it was a couple of years before that in the Irish Academy with the gender-based violence, and
the Irish Gender-Based Violence Consortium.
Yeah, I have brought that up. Yeah.
The people who spoke at it were that it was that there was a woman from Colombia, and the guy whose wife had been brutally raped and murdered in Australia.
Okay.
You remember? And that was well. Anyway.
Okay. Anyway, Nguyen, you want to say something to Mike's points?
Yeah. No, I totally agree with Mike's comments that, you know, even in the sorry.
No, sorry. Porig has to leave, so maybe it's already 3 minutes. Thanks, Porig. Thanks for participating.
How much time do we have?
It's already 3, but just say maybe we'll give another 5 minutes.
No, I don't really have much to say. Just totally agree with what Mike said. And then I also believe that, you know, at the operational level, at least, you know, in country development programs, at least, making terms consistent, you know, translated terms consistent and agreed by at least, you know, key parties who are involved in the national or, you know, provincial policy making, you know, at least at that level, then it will save a lot of effort for all the parties, because, you know, as we go to the field, we almost every time have to invent you know, terms for resilience in Vietnamese, or, you know, we don't have agreed upon equivalents in Vietnamese for those terms. And also because most textbooks in development or, you know, policy papers in development, for example, are originally written in English with very limited Vietnamese translation. So big issue. at least
Yeah.
for Vietnam. Yeah.
No, I completely agree because I've seen that from my own research right now, what we are doing in Vietnam, and I'm hoping you join in at some level. But thank you, everyone. I just have one request. Can the lecturers here, which we have 3 here, thanks for being here, Jackie. Jackie, Mike, and Good. Could you please make it tell your students that we would love to hear from them, and if they can have presentations like Sophie did, for instance, and Amy, and I know Nguyen is a PhD level, and we saw that in his presentation. So it would be great to have even smaller whatever little bit of research dissertations one is writing is interested in, we would love to have that in this forum, because we are trying to build it. And like Sophie's plea is very, very crucial, actually, which is why I brought her in, the younger generation, to come into this and speak. It's not saying that the postgraduates are not working hard, but we are missing out on the at the undergraduate level. Because I know Sophie, I've heard of many times, and I know a couple of others also. The other thing, so maybe you could, the next one, which we will have probably in 3 weeks, Amy, or maybe you can suggest names of your students or Sophie's friends can bring in, and we could have a bigger one. This one I'm chairing only to support Sophie, and I'm hoping to support Amy, and I'm hoping Sophie will support Amy in the future. Let's see what the steering committee says. That was the whole idea. And thanks, Hannah. Thanks,
Thank you so
Nguyen.
much. I'd just like to say thanks to everybody, and I am in this because Nita has kindly invited me. She heard about a petition that I started after the killing of George Floyd. It's a petition to get more authors of colour on the Leaving Cert English syllabus. This is an issue that I feel very passionate about, and I'd really like to see just more change and more representation in the curriculum. So if you had emails and knew anybody would be interested in signing it and sharing it across platforms, that would be brilliant. The things like that take a very, very long time to come into action, but that's something that if people wanted to, could I make a presentation on this next time? Yeah, that'd be great, Sophie. Yeah, that'd be, yeah, I'll get working on a presentation. Yeah, and that would be, yeah, I'd be really happy if you could share that with anybody that you know. If I could get your emails maybe, or I don't know what the best way is.
I will forward you. I'll link you with everyone.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nita.
Thank you, guys. Anybody else wants to say one last thing?
Just thanks very much.
Thank you.
Amy, you want to say your thanks?
Yeah, okay. So thank you very much again for everybody. Thank you for joining. It was amazing meeting, even though it was the first time with me. And then, I would like all of you to join for the next meeting in 3 weeks. We are planning. And I wish that you can spread this meeting to your friends, and hope there are more people who can attend. And I would like to do my best to making this postgrad network more energetic and useful and good opportunity for all of you. So I really look for the next meeting, and thank you so much for massive help, Nita. And
Don't be
Nguyen.
silly. Thanks.
I know, Sophie.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike. Thanks,
much.
Jackie. Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, Gertrude. Thanks,
Thank
Nguyen.
you, Sophie.
Thanks,
For,
Sophia.
thank,
Bye.
Bye.
thank you very much. So bye.
Bye.